Toronto condos are now selling for under $400,000. These are one bedroom condos. Some are even selling around 380K. A couple of years ago, people would have been like, wow, that's a pretty good price. Now it's actually happening. So people are obviously divided about what this means for the Toronto condo market. So I want to go over what people are saying about this and also share my own opinion at the end of the video. So first off, a lot of people are saying that at these prices, condos are starting to actually look more attractive, right? Could they still be high? I think a little bit. I think there's more room for them to go down. But let's say if you're a single person, no kids, you got a decent stable job, good six-figure down payment, these are starting to approach what you can do, right? Again, it all depends on your financial situation. But again, the problem with these units is they are still very small for people, right? Especially for a couple or someone who, let's say, is planning on having kids. Now, if you're, let's say, someone who lives alone, these are good options for people. Now, I've even seen people say, look, if you can make it work, it's not for everybody. If you don't need to be downtown, just keep saving, right? If you have to be downtown, these condos at these price levels, they don't look horrible. I think they're still a little expensive, but they're a lot better than they were at, let's say, 600 or 700,000. Now, on the flip side, you got people who are loving this. They say, honestly, it's pretty cozy. You're close to friends, restaurants, activities. It's not bad. Another person said they actually downsized from 3,600 square feet home to a 600 square foot condo, and they didn't hate it. They actually liked the minimalism, being more intentional about what they owned. And it's true, if you're someone who's, let's say, lived in a condo or an apartment and you've lived in a bigger space, for sure that you just buy more crap. When you live in a big home, let's say not crap, but you just buy more stuff because you have more space. You fill it up with stuff, and it's not even like you're intentionally doing it. It just happens because you live in a bigger home. So you have to fill it up with furniture and necessarily stuff that you don't really even use or care about that much. And I personally can vouch for that too. Now, when you live downtown, some people say the streets are your hallways, restaurants are your kitchen. Now, that really sums up the downtown argument, right? You're paying for the location and the lifestyle, not the square footage, right? So that's the whole thing about living in Toronto. But not everyone is sold on that idea, right? Some people love hobbies. They like to build things. They need space, right? Or they obviously are planning on having a family. And condo living is not really a good option for those people. And that's, of course, because people have different needs, right? A small condo might work for someone who just, say, is there to sleep, but they work out outside of their house or their condo. They always eat out. They're always socializing outside with other people or coworkers or whatever. It's not for someone who wants a garage, who wants tools, who wants space to do activities, or who wants their kids to play in the backyard. There's also a big financial part to this. Some people said that investors have stepped back. The only people buying now are the end users, and most of them don't want these tiny units. Some even speculated that certain units sold so fast because the sellers wanted to dump them quickly, maybe due to special assessments or upcoming repairs. And there's obviously the math side of things, right? Some people said even with a down payment and a mortgage pre-approval, it just doesn't make sense, right? Once you factor in your down payment, condo fees, taxes, repairs, you're often spending way more monthly than renting. Now, at the same time, you have also a lot of people who are still waiting for these condo prices to keep dropping. People say, look, prices will need to fall another 15 to 20% for it to make sense to buy. You'll never buy with that mindset, right? That's the other kind of voice. I would say the argument to that is, look, if you're always looking for the market to keep dropping, there's never a perfect time. And the fact that the market's dropped, if you're going to buy a condo, this is a much better time than it was 3 years ago, right? Of course, prices can keep dropping down. You have to always have that in mind, but there's always a chance that the market could recover. I'm not saying that's going to happen or that I believe it will, but there's always a chance it could happen. So what do I personally think about all this? Well, I think it's pretty amazing that condo prices have come down below 400K. Prices are really dropping and they've come down, and It's what affordability looks like in a market correction. 400,000 might sound pretty cheap when you think about it for downtown condo. These are condos that used to be 700,000, maybe even 800,000 in certain pockets, right? Even though I don't think condos have fallen that much just yet. So if someone wants to buy to live there long term, it's fine. It's their lifestyle choice. But let's say people are looking at this as an investment. They have to be very careful, right? I think for years we've been conditioned to look at real estate only goes up, and that's not the case here. So whether it's 400K today, or let's say condos go to 350 next year, the market is calibrating, right? And we don't know what the future holds for the condo market. But over the very long term, I think you'll see price appreciation. It's just, you got to be careful with the purchase because so many condos are coming to market. It's only for people with specific lifestyle that they want, and that changes over the course of your life. Maybe you're young now and you're not planning on needing space, but what if you do want space in a few years? And your life can change very quickly in the span of a few years. So always good to think about the long term, right? And of course, would I personally buy a condo right now? I don't think so, right? Just because of the way I want to live life and what I'm looking for, and the fact that I have rented in an apartment, basically a condo style apartment. There's certain things I really loved about it, but certain things I would not want again, right? So let me know what you guys think of condo prices dropping under 400K. It's a pretty big price point. Let me know.